All right, we're going to talk about the fourth seal today, and we're going to talk about the pale horse right when we get back.
I am the one!
Okay, so the fourth seal, and we're going to be talking about the four living creatures to really start this off, because in the last three episodes we have talked about the creatures, and we haven't really gotten into any detail about this. So what I want to do is, just kind of touch base with this. We're going to be reading out of Revelation chapter 6, verses 7 through 8. And this episode might be a little bit longer than all the other ones because I really want to make sure you understand how important the four living creatures are. All right, so we're going to start right off. When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come and see." The fourth living creature is the one with the face of an eagle. Okay, so we're going to stop and talk about this. When we're reading about these things, I want you to study on your own and really maybe even Google this stuff, because it's really I can't really even get into detail in the 9 to 10 minutes that we're doing these videos, but I've been studying a lot in the past 3 or 4 weeks about these, and they're pretty darn amazing. I mean, you can tell that God has really got an imagination and an amazing ability to create. If you look into Ezekiel chapter 1, verses 5 through 10, it's going to give some very much detail in these four living creatures. Verse 5, also, from within it came with the likeness of four living creatures, and this was their appearance. Now we're going to talk about the appearance. They had the likeness of a man. Each one had 4 faces, and each one had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the soles of a calf's feet. They sparkled like the color of burnished bronze. Okay, so these creatures had 4 faces on each one. So there was 4 living creatures with 4 faces. They had a body of a man, and the legs were straight with a hoof like a calf. Okay. Verse 8, the hands of a man were under their wings on their 4 sides, and each one of the 4 had faces and wings. So there was man's of a hands, and you should be able to see a picture right here. And so the body really represented a man in this portion, okay? Their wings touched one another. The creatures did not turn when they went, but each one went straight forward. Okay, so there was a face on all 4 sides of their head. All right, so anywhere they were looking or anywhere they were at, they could see all around them all at the same time. They were they understood exactly what was going on around them all the time. Okay, kind of reminds you of your mom when she says, "I got eyes in the back of my head." Okay, kind of reminds you of that. All right, verse 10. As for their likeness of their faces, each had the face of a man. Each of the 4 had the face of a lion on the right side. Each of the 4 had the face of an ox on the left side. And each one had 4 of the 4 had the face of an eagle, which was behind them. Okay? So you can see, in Ezekiel, there are 4 creatures with 4 faces. When the seal was opened, the face of the eagle spoke. All right, which one of the 4? They all spoke in unison. Okay, the Bible doesn't exactly say that, but it just says that the eagle had spoke. So, which one spoke? I'm going to say, and I rarely ever preach my opinion, but the way the Scripture is leading me to believe, they all spoke in unison. They can do that. They were created by God. They got that kind of power. They probably all did that, okay? So this kind of blows your mind a little bit. And I promise you, when you get to heaven, a lot of things you're gonna be pretty much speechless by everything you see there. So, okay, we're going to talk about the pale horse. Gonna get right back into expository preaching, the facts only, okay? Revelations 6:8. So I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed after or with him. And power was given to them over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword, hunger, death, and the beasts of the earth. Okay, so let's break this down like we always do. We're going to expository preach and study here, okay? Which means that this is the first time you've watched this video. Expository means to expose the scripture, okay? Pale horse. The Greek term for pale is klaros. Klaros? And I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but you can look it up yourself. And this means is the English word for chlorine, which kind of gives off a yellowish green effect. You know, when the body dies and it's been laying around for 4 or 5 days, maybe a week or two, it gets kind of a pale looking, and it's kind of ugly. Okay, it kind of puts off a yellow greenish effect. But the word in the Greek means green. Okay. And the name of him who sat on it was Death, and Hades followed with him. Okay, so the cause of this death is the rider, because his name is Death, right? Following on his heels is Hades, or hell, whichever one you want to use, which is the destination of everybody that decided not to serve Jesus, went to hell. So if you're watching this and you're not really sure whether you've made a real true sacrifice or not sacrifice, but a commitment to God, or you don't believe at all, just understand that the place that people go to when they die and they didn't put their faith in God, they go to hell. All right, bottom line. All right, so let me kind of explain that, it's not really the lake of fire that bothers me. It's not the fact that I'm going to be tormented, that I would be tormented for eternity. For me, it'd be being separated from God for eternity. And for the fact that he forgot me, and he says that he never knew me, and the fact that he has put me out of his mind that he ever created me. Okay? And then, think about this. If you have family members that are in heaven, they no longer even have any recollection that you ever existed. And I know this by scripture because if God says he's going to forget that you ever existed, why would I remember that you ever existed? So it's not the fact of being tormented for eternity, being in the lake of fire and burning for eternity. It's the fact that you're going to be eternally separated from a God that loves you right now and is trying to protect you from things, even though you're rejecting him. Okay? That's got to be the worst thing, to know that you're being rejected for eternity. And you're going to remember all those things, because when the rich man was in hell and he spoke to Abraham on the other side and said, hey, will you send Lazarus over to dip the finger in? And Abraham said, we can't do that. This is before Christ had died on the cross. Everybody that died in God went to a place called paradise, which was across the river from hell. And what happened is he's telling Abraham, send Lazarus, send somebody to my family so they don't come to this terrible place. He remembered his family, okay? But the Bible is very clear that we're not going to remember you if you don't accept Jesus. And if you go to hell, it's very clear that we're not going to remember. So let's just understand that this is during the tribulation time. You can get saved. You can accept God. It's going to be extremely hard. But at this point in time, death is on the horse, on the pale horse, and what's following after him is hell. All right. Now, a great description of this would be like the horses that pull the hearses behind. So you got the pale horse, or whatever color horse you're dealing with, and then you got a hearse that's trailing behind. I thought it was a great representation of kind of what that is. All right, so we're gonna move on. And power was given to them over the fourth of the earth to kill with a sword, with hunger, with death, and with a beast of the earth. Now we've already had, the other 3 seals open where there's famine in the land and things like that. So we're already famished the government is withholding food and everything, how much worse can it get? Well, it's going to get a whole lot worse than this fourth seal. All right. So let's talk about a quarter of the earth. Now, remember, let's talk about it. It's a quarter of the earth. That's right now, as it stands, it's 1.5 billion people on the earth. That is the country of China and the United States put together. Just imagine everybody in the United States is wiped out. Okay? Everybody in China is completely wiped out. All right? And it's going to happen either people are going to rise up against each other and fight and kill each other, kind of happening right now with the school shootings and the different things that are going off in the United States with the gang fights and things like that. It's just going to be much more magnitude at that point in time. And if you don't, get killed by somebody or your neighbor, you're going to be, killed by hunger, starving to death. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But this is going to be the biggest destruction of human life ever recorded in the history of in mankind. Remember the Black Death? 200 million people. That was 60% of Europe that died in a 4-year period. I can guarantee you 1.5 billion people is going to die a lot quicker than 4 years. It's going to take a lot less time because we're so much better technology at this point in time. But it's going to, I would say a few weeks, if not a few months. Okay. So we were talking about slaughter between man and man. All right, fighting and things like that. Hunger is going to take some of that. That pestilence or a plague, like the Black Death, is going to be part of that. And if it's not into one of those three, animals are going to be hungry. We are going to drop down on the food chain a little bit, and animals are going to attack you as well. So I'm not sure really what's worse, whether you're getting killed by your neighbor or you're dying a very slow death by hunger or famine, or not famine, but a plague, or a big old lion comes and takes your head off or starts mauling you. I don't know. So anyways, what does the fifth seal bring? Who does it deal with? And when does it take place? We're going to find out next time. Thanks for having us. We'll talk to you later.